Hi everyone. I'm going to show you how to do a boneless pork loin, oven roasted in the oven with a dry rub, and then we're going to put a brown sugar glaze on it. You can make all kinds of dry rubs and different glazes and stuff, or barbecue it, whatever. But I'm going to go with the brown sugar glaze. And you want to make sure, because there's a big difference between a boneless pork loin and a tenderloin. Now, boneless pork loin, usually a nice wide piece of pork, comes from the back of the pig, and you can get it with the bone in, or like I said, boneless. And it takes longer to cook than a pork tenderloin. Pork tenderloins usually come in about a little small, 1 pound in weight, and those you want to pretty much cook quickly, like on the stove or grill or something, okay? So make sure, because there's a difference in cooking a loin from a tenderloin, okay? All right, this is a 4 pound, and usually you get them where they're much wider and more square and stuff, but this is a 4 pound boneless pork loin, okay? And this also has, they call it a fat cap on top, all right? You do not want to remove the fat cap. Keep that right on, because that's going to help keep your meat nice and tender, juicy, moist. All right, and I also like to take the fat cap and I like to score it. You just take your knife and on the fat, just go this way and then go this way with it. That's scoring it, okay? That's going to help when you make your glaze for it to get in there real good and make it more flavorful and to cling right to it good, okay? So, and you want to also check, because it's very important, like chicken, that you cook your pork. Now they're saying pork now you can cook to 145 degrees. So where it can be just a little slightly pink. So when you want to use a meat thermometer and check it, okay? In other ways, when you think it's close to being done, just pierce it with a fork, and if it runs clear of the juices, and that's another good sign it's done, okay? You want to preheat your oven to 425 degrees, because we're going to roast it for like 15 minutes, and then we're going to take it out of the oven, and then I'm going to put the dry rub on it, or let's back that up. We're going to dry rub it first. We're going to put it in the oven at 425 for 15 minutes. Then we're going to take it out, and we're going to put the brown sugar glaze on top. Throw it back in the oven, lower the temperature to 375, and cook it for about 35-40 minutes, and check the temperature. Now when it's at 140, you can take it out, and it's very important to cover it with foil afterwards. We're going to let it rest. So and when it's resting for 5 to 10 minutes, it's going to redistribute that juice all throughout the meat. And not only that, it's going to climb in temperature, the internal temperature, to reach 145 degrees where you can eat it at. Okay? All right, well, let's get started. I've already scored the fat cap, fat on top. When you put it in your baking pan, make sure the fat side's up, okay? Because you want that fat, as it's cooking, that juice to run down. Just keep bringing flavor, more and more flavor to your meat, all right? So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take olive oil, and we're gonna cover all the meat in olive oil. And that's gonna help the dry rub to stick to it, okay? So just rub that right on real good. And I've got about 6 big carrots I cut up, because I'm gonna throw that in also, and I wanna make sure those carrots are nicely cooked and tender, because usually I peel and cut up potatoes too and put in with it, and onion and stuff, but I'm gonna use my canned potatoes over here, and also some canned butternut squash. And they're already cooked, so they just gotta heat up, so I'm not gonna throw those 2 things in until the last minute. All right, let me dry my hands on this olive oil. Okay, so it's all coated in the olive oil good. Now let's make the dry rub. Okay, and I took a couple teaspoons of rosemary. It was whole, but I took and I crushed it up really good. So there's about a couple teaspoons there, okay? Now this is the dry rub we're making. I'm gonna use a teaspoon of paprika, half a teaspoon of black pepper, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, 2 teaspoons of onion powder, 2 teaspoons of thyme, and a couple teaspoons of salt. And we're going to use a half a teaspoon of ground mustard, okay? Not French's mustard that's in the fridge. All right, so mix that all up really good. That's your dry rub. And of course, there's other different dry rubs you could make. Even honey and garlic, with minced garlic and honey would make a good glaze. Or you could do barbecue sauce, you know. It's whatever you like. All right. Now, let's rub this all over the meat. Okay, see with that oil, how it's going to make it adhere to the meat? I'm going to save a little bit because I want to put it on my vegetables when I put them in. Okay, just make sure you do all the sides. Okay, then we'll throw that in a minute in the oven for 15 minutes at 425. Okay. Now, to make your glaze, 1 cup of brown sugar, put it in a small pan, 3 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, and a couple tablespoons of flour. Give that a good whisk. And you're only going to cook this on the stove like on medium for 1 to 2 minutes. Just till it starts to thicken a little bit, and then we're going to put it, after we take the meat out of the oven after 15 minutes, then we'll put the glaze on. But cooking it at 425 for 15 minutes is going to help brown it, because sometimes you could just sear it in a frying pan with a little olive oil on top of the stove to brown it up good on all the outside of it. But I'm just going to throw it in a high degree oven for 15 minutes and then take it out, and that should be good. Okay. Okay, it's been in the oven for 15 minutes and 425, and I just took it out, and I took my 2 quarts of potatoes, and I used just 1 quart of butternut squash, and I used 6 good-sized carrots that I cooked till tender, then drained, let them cool. And I just coated it all in olive oil, all the vegetables, and then I used the rest of that herbs that I made to put on the meat. I just put over the vegetables, and then I just spread them out in a pan, and I set the meat right up on top of it. And then to the I have to warm this up just a little bit longer. All right, let me just warm that up, because when it sits for a few minutes, it starts to thicken back up. Let me just put it on for another 30 seconds. Just to loosen up the brown sugar glaze a little bit. All right, so besides the vinegar and some flour and the cup of the brown sugar, I also put in about a 1/4 teaspoon more of the ground mustard, the dry mustard, also in the brown sugar glaze. And then I put in a couple tablespoons of corn syrup. And then I also put in 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter, okay? And you're only going to cook that for like a minute or so, just till the sugar dissolves. And then we're just going to put that right over the top of the meat. Okay, told you it doesn't take long. And that's what it looks like, the brown sugar glaze. We're just going to put that right on the top and let it get right into that where I scored the meat. Smells really good. And I'm just going to take a little bit and just put a little bit around on the vegetables. Okay. And this is what it's looking like. And now I'll throw it back in the oven for until it gets to be about 140 degrees, about 35, 40 minutes. Don't forget to lower your oven to 375. Okay, it's done. That's what it looks like. Now, get some on a plate. Some of my homemade cinnamon applesauce, I thought would go really good too with it. All right. Now let's cut the meat. And there we have it. Take the end piece. And look at how juicy that is. You see how nice that came out? You see that? Okay, everybody, let's give it a little taste. Really, really juicy, moist, very tender. You really taste all them different herbs. It's really good with that butternut squash. I'll try carrot. Okay, that's it. Nice and easy. All right, y'all have a good night and take care. God bless. Bye-bye.